And we're on to episode 3, Traveling On.
Woo, travel of Agents of Travel.
Of Agents of Travel. Traveling On with Agents of Travel.
There you go.
There I go. I was just trying to come up with a catchphrase.
Oh, I
Traveling
like it.
On. Yeah.
Agents of Travel, traveling on.
So maybe I should say the title, then the catchphrase.
Yeah, usually people don't lead with the catchphrase.
Yeah. I'm Agent Sticky Toffee Pudding, Garrett Palm, and with me is, as usual,
Agent Sticky Toffee Pudding. Oh, God.
Wow, she's getting over being sick, so she
Agent-
thinks she's me.
Agent Panakukin, Rachel Van Hess. Jesus Christ.
Yep. We've been dating for a long time. I don't know if listeners know this, but we're dating, and so sometimes we've been together almost 10 years. Sometimes, the lines blur between who each other are.
Yeah, it really adds another dimension to our interdepartmental competition.
Yeah, I know. We haven't told our boss.
Yeah. It's messed up.
I know, it's pretty messed up. Oh, so we have a guest this week, as usual. We've got the wonderful Jeremy Bent.
I tried to jump on at the end there.
No, you were pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't warn you.
Uh-huh.
He has a podcast called Eurovangelists, where him and Oscar Montoya cover the
You've got it. Eurovision
every year. Eurovision is great.
I haven't seen it.
I love it. I think it's great. And his podcast is on MaximumFun.org. They're on a legit network.
Wow.
Yeah, not just, they probably are in a studio, not you on the couch and me on the floor like we are right now. So they cover the oh my God, I forgot the name of it. The Eurovision every year. And I think it's great because you get all these over the top, cheesy, catchy tunes with these over the top shows. It's great. And every country is like, this is going to represent me this year. I love it. But you should give it a listen.
I like that you keep looking to me to add something when I've already
said that you don't
I
watch
it. I can't help you, man.
Okay, that's fair. All right, let's take it away to Jeremy Bent.
No, I was reaching out to somebody about meeting up, and they were like, I can't meet up now. I'm going to be co-working at that time.
Oh, that's okay. That doesn't make sense to me.
I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, do they just mean I'm planning,
I'm be at the co-working space, or are they working with somebody at the co-working space?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. And I didn't know if it was just new vocab I wasn't understanding, but
no, that's more questions than answers for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in LA it's interesting because everybody has such different weird jobs. Very few people work in an office that I can't track how people talk about their work anymore.
Yeah, it is. Because I would say hey, that's my writing time. Is it that that's my time to go do my work, and I try to keep to that.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it's not my business. It's not my fucking business what they're doing, but I really don't understand what it is.
I'm sort of making it our business by chatting about it.
We are.
Yeah.
But I am, it is weird of I'm co-working at that time. It's
not even working.
I'm
co-working.
I was because if you said working at the time, there would be no further questions.
No. And they spelled it CO-working.
I think that is the preferred.
That's how you would write it?
I don't know. I'd have to check my Chicago Manual of Style, but I don't know how they're referring to it. But that doesn't strike me as nearly as unusual as using it as a verb,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A co-working space is cool. All right. But to do some co-working is
what does that even mean?
No, you lost me there.
Yeah, because I'm are you just body doubling at a cafe or something?
Yeah, right.
Well, we don't have a co-working space because Jeremy, I gotta tell you something.
Okay.
We work in an actual office, Rachel and I, and where we are We're secret agents.
Oh my God.
Yep. We are secret agents for the National Office of
National Travel and Tourism Office.
Yep, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Mtato.
Mtato.
Tato. And we have been tasked with harshly interrogating you
Oh boy.
for your
Okay.
travel stories to pitch you your dream trip because we're competing for a promotion.
Yeah, and by work, intern.
Okay.
Intern.
We are intern.
Not even a
secret
co-working
agents. Yeah.
situation, just
Yeah.
an interning
All
situation.
right. Well, I'll waive my right to an attorney during this interrogation.
Oh.
I'll let this happen.
We should have been asking that. We
Yeah,
haven't
we-
asked anybody. We haven't read any Miranda rights.
Wow, you're the first person we've interrogated who understands law.
Well, you watch enough true crime, and
Yeah.
it's sort of like,
Yeah, it's true.
You're stupid to go into any sort of police environment or
Yeah.
secret agent environment.
Secret agent, yeah.
And not
even-
think that you could potentially be involved in some sort of,
yeah.
trouble. So.
That's yeah.
Wow, this one's gonna be tough.
I know, but I think we can crack
We
them.
can crack him.
So secure am I in my innocence that I waive my right to a lawyer.
Wow.
So we have secret agent names,
Okay.
which we by law we are supposed to tell. If we are
Okay.
interrogating you, you get to know our secret
All right.
agent.
Well, then
name.
I would love to hear them.
Okay. My secret agent name is Secret Agent Sticky Toffee Pudding
Okay.
because that's my favorite dessert.
Amazing
You know-
choice.
yeah,
Excellent.
Yep.
Very fine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I am Secret Agent Pannenkoeken, which is
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Dutch for pancake.
Yeah.
Because I am Dutch.
Both
And she likes
things-
pancakes all right.
Both
Yeah,
things I
pancakes
have sampled in their native country.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Good intel. Good
Yeah,
intel.
good
then.
intel,
We got
okay.
the information out of him without even asking a question.
Without any torture. We've
Incredible.
never tortured.
Okay. All right.
We don't
You say that. but
Yeah.
How
yeah,
do
yeah.
I know?
I know.
Everybody describes being on our podcast as torture, and that's something we're very proud of.
Yeah.
All right. So you have tortured. It sounds like.
Yes.
Accidentally, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
We've
All
never intentionally tortured people.
Okay. That's.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Okay, so are you ready?
Do you
I think
consent
so.
to this interrogation?
Okay. Should I sign something? I consent.
Oh God, we should have had
no.
contracts for you
I
to
know
sign.
we've never done a.
I'm just gonna put a thumbprint here on the table. You can.
Great.
You can lift that later with a
Great.
detective kit of some kind.
Yep.
Well, we've
that
got to
will
buy
work.
one of those.
I know.
Okay.
Maybe the office has them.
Okay. So
Okay.
The Intato offices.
Tato.
Yeah.
Yep. Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
what was the first trip that turned you on to travel?
Okay. I have a question about this question. Is that
Yes.
okay? So it turned me on to travel, like traveling by myself, like picking my own destinations, or just turned me on to the concept of travel?
What made you hype on it?
Yeah, like what it was like. Oh wow, this is this thing where you go to another place that you don't live in.
I
is
wanna do
cool.
this again.
I want to do this
Yeah.
again. Go somewhere else I don't live.
I think probably. So when I was in college, this was right after my junior year of college, and my parents were like, "We're going to England," and I had sort of always wanted to go to England. I'd never been, and I would have been 20 at the time. And I should mention my family took a vacation to Spain when I was younger that I said I am not interested in and refused to go on.
How old were you?
13.
That's exactly at the
Yeah.
age where you're like, all I want to do is play video games and never leave the house.
Exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to go to some kind of like, I don't know what the food is like there. Not interested.
Honestly, good on your parents for being like, fuck it, stay.
Yeah, and they did, and they took my brother and one of his friends, and like I stayed home, and a family friend who was working on our house anyway sort of watched me, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
fond memories of staying home?
Not really. No particular. Well, that's not true. I guess I helped that family friend who stayed with us fix some other houses, and I actually do have some fun memories
that's
of
cool.
that. So I didn't learn nothing,
Yeah.
That's cute.
but I probably would have learned more going to Spain.
Yeah.
But we went as a family to England, and I was just so hyped to go to England because I'm a bit
How
of an
old were you?
Anglophile.
20.
20.
20. Yes.
And so we did a lot of the like traditional London stuff. You know,
Yeah.
we did like Tower of London. We did, I'm sure we did like the National Gallery.
Yeah.
And then we went up to the country as well and saw like Stonehenge and like old ruined castles and stuff.
Yeah.
In what way are you an Anglophile? Like, were you a theater kid? Are you more like the history appeals to you, or
You
like
watch
what
the
part of that?
British comedy.
I was a big British comedy guy. I was
Okay.
obviously
Okay,
a
cool.
huge Monty Python fan.
Yes.
But then also it's like, well, once you get into Monty Python, the sort of modern era of British comedy of like Whose Line was on Comedy Central at the time.
The
Cool.
original.
Like
yeah,
the original, which
so good.
I ultimately think is like a lot funnier than the stateside one, which is not bad in any way.
It's hard because the stateside one has Colin and Ryan.
Yeah.
And like that duo, that combination
funny.
is
They're
so funny.
powerful.
They're powerful. And all the clips that I see now are of those two.
Yeah.
I never see any of the British ones
I know
used as
the
clips.
British one has sort of been erased, which is a shame because
I know
very
it's
funny.
great. It was great.
So I was a big fan of that, and then also like of course in college I got really into like British music.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like I like obviously the Beatles, but like I was
Yeah.
a big Clash guy.
Yeah.
I was really into the Police. Which I think if you're a bass player, you have a phase where you listen to the Police. And you're like, "These guys are-" you know, he can sing, but he's actually a really good bass player, which is true. But
Sting plays
Sting-
bass?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Sting is sort of like, it's sort of shocking that he's that good a bass player because
Yeah.
like most guys who sing and play bass are terrible at one or both of
Yeah.
those things. Like Gene Simmons of Kiss, I would rate as like not that good at either of those things.
I mean, the Kiss as a band is
yeah.
not. Yeah.
I mean, their guitarists are pretty good, but like,
Okay.
but yeah, it's like nobody notes the bass lines of Kiss.
Yeah.
But like the Police is like kind of all of their songs. It's like it's also a 3-piece, so it's like well they all have to be good.
Yeah.
Because if one guy's bad, you're like oh,
You
this
know
band
it.
is terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went there and I had a really good time, and I had also already was signed up to study abroad in London in the fall.
Oh.
And we had already planned the trip, and then I made that decision. So I kind of got a preview of my life was going to be like 3 months later.
So you got to
Yeah.
be cool to all your classmates. Where you're
Yeah.
like, actually let me show you around.
You can go to the Tower of London. It's cool, I guess.
It's cool. Oh, you should check out this cute little place, Pret a Manger.
yeah. They got a lot of options. It's great.
Yeah.
But it did kind of prep me for that study abroad experience because like I knew how to use the tube and I like kind of had a
Yeah.
rough I'm pretty good at like I grew up in a very small town and then I went to Boston for college and then I studied abroad in London and I just got really good at using like public transit systems to create a map of a city in my head.
Yeah.
And I can do that pretty rapidly. And so when everyone came over for the England program, I kind of knew how to get around already.
But does that work for the London tube? Because I got screwed
Oh,
once
it's confusing.
trying to use the map of the London tube to walk to a place.
So like the tube map is like already very complicated.
Yeah.
And then you have to accept the fact that like this is not a 1-to-1 map
No.
of London. Like
No.
it's not those places out at the edge are much further
Yeah.
away than you think they are.
Well, I was in I was trying to get to the Old Vic.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I was walking from, I don't know, the center, and I was like, okay, I could take the tube, or I could like I know it's this way.
Yeah.
I'll just walk that way. And it didn't work. It didn't work that way.
You guys both seem like I
White
think-
guys?
No. Well,
White guys with
that's
glasses.
true.
Yeah. white
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Who lived in New York for a while.
No, I think there is something to be said about people from New York taking a lot of pride in feeling grounded in this city by understanding how the public transportation works, and there being sort of like a pride and a comfort and even a little bit of a pleasure in that.
I
would you guys
definitely,
say accurate?
it is one of my least favorite things about Los Angeles is that the public transit system
Yes.
here is so weak.
So bad. Yeah. Agreed.
Because I really think for most big cities, it's like learning that public transit system gives you such a like sense of the character of the city, and also like it's sort of a key to unlock a lot, especially
Yeah.
European cities, because
Yeah.
like once you know how to use the tube, the metro, it's like you can really those cities kind of become your oyster, because
Yeah.
they're really not expensive. Literally, in the case of the UK,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have the
And-
Oyster card.
Yeah. I feel like in New York, especially, like you could ask anybody that looked comfortable, looked like they lived in New York, and like how to get to this spot, and they'd be like, yeah, you take the G line, transfer here to the L, and then take a few stops. Like they have it in their head.
Yeah, and it's also very like my wife sent me something on Instagram that was like, what New York subway station is the hottest? And it's like, and we were both like, Herald Square.
Yeah, heat wise, Herald Square. Yeah,
34th Street F platform is like in the summer is like 130 degrees. It's brutal.
And
but that's something after taking the subway for years and years.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like maybe that almost speaks to like in New York, at least it's easier to have like a connective shared experience with everybody else where you're like, we all relate to the fact that Herald Square is really hot.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Whereas
Stuck
in
here
LA,
again.
like nobody's like, oh, the 5 is really busy at 4 p.m.
No, the people here in LA, the 405, you mentioned the 405 to anybody that takes that.
They light up.
They're like, it is the bane of their existence if they have to take the 405 during rush hour. That is like one of the worst
and the
highways.
I guess the other like LA point that everyone understands is that 101 110 interchange when you're going downtown, where you're like, why is it
worst.
laid out the way it is?
It's
it
so
is
bad.
such a nightmare.
Yeah.
I remember the first few months I was here, I was like, why would anyone do this to someone?
Yeah.
It's so cruel.
I also think the connective experience is the Americana brand memes have proven. It's just like the Americana and the Galleria. It's like everybody's like, yes, this is all of us.
Yeah.
We all have these experiences.
So what was the first trip that turned you on to solo travel?
Okay. So I came back to London as a student that same fall. This would have been 2003.
Okay.
And I was like living in London as an incredibly broke student and like, but they give you time off during the program so you can travel because you should. And so an old roommate of mine was living in Cairo at the time. He was teaching at an English language high school in Cairo. And I was like, hey, I'm in the UK if you want to come visit. And he's like, yeah, maybe. Do you want to come visit Cairo? And I was like, I sort of thought, I was like, when will I ever have the opportunity to A, visit Cairo, and B, like be shown around by my friend Ben is a like extremely white looking Midwestern man, but he spoke Arabic because he studied Middle Eastern history.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so I was like, when will I ever have the opportunity? Yes. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And so I flew London to Greece. I remember being in the Athens airport at 1 a.m, which was incredibly opulent because they had just upgraded it for the Athens, the 2004 Olympics.
Yeah.
And so it was just me on a bench watching the same loop of like high-end like perfume commercials for 3
Yes.
hours. And then I got a flight from Athens to Cairo. And I landed at Cairo at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend Ben was like, you got to get a visa. Like you have to like pay for it right when you, like, if you don't get it, it's bad. And thankfully there was like a guy right there and I like got the visa and everything was fine. And then he was waiting at the airport and like, it was like 4 a.m. and we got in a cab and I was sort of like whacked out of my mind on sleep, but we drove back to his apartment and it was like, oh wow, this is great. I'm in Cairo. And I go to bed. I wake up the next day. He's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know, like whatever you want. Let's go. He's like, let's go get breakfast. And we like got into another cab and now it is daytime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing with cabs in Cairo is that they are all BMWs from 1985 that look like someone has just taken a sledgehammer to all four corners for like a week.
And that's just from driving in Cairo.
Yeah, because I'm like sleep deprived. I'm in the front of the cab because I'm so big. I don't really fit in the back. And they get on the highway and they start going 100 miles an hour. And I start having like, oh, no, you're going to hit this guy. And then he hits the guy. And that's like what they do is they like bump each other and then they honk at each other and scream at each other in Arabic. And I was so like, oh, my God. And, like it really freaked me out. But then like 3 days later, that same thing would happen. I'd be like, oh, what are you going to do? You know?
That's almost like the argument, too, like where I think about this here in LA and in the US all the time, which is like if everybody just had a small car, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because then we could just do bumper cars instead of like, Suburban versus VW Bug is like only going to go one way.
Brings a Rivian to a knife fight.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, God. But that trip was wild. Like I saw, kind of all the notable stuff in Cairo, and then we tried to take a flight, and that did not go well. So we ended up taking a night train to Luxor, and then we saw like Valley of the Kings and like Karnak Temple, Dendara, like these really incredible temples. And that was a real like, oh, I don't know anything about planet Earth.
Yeah. Where you're like,
I don't know anything.
Where when you're in London, you're like, I kind of know the history.
It's metropolitan.
I know this. Yeah.
And then you're in Egypt and you're like,
I don't know.
Wait, they didn't tell me about any of this.
Yeah. My friend Ben took me out to like, you would hire a car to go certain places because it was just much easier and cheaper to just have someone drive you to this particular temple or whatever. And he spoke Arabic, so it was easy to be like, you're taking us to the right place, right? And he's like, it was always fine.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, we're going to take a shortcut. And then he like talked to this guy in Arabic, and I was like, where are we going? He's like, you'll see. And he took us out to, I think they're called the Colossi at Memnon. And they're these giant, like 60-foot tall statues. And they're just in the middle of a field. And you're like, why are these here? And apparently like 3,000 years ago, that was a floodplain. And so it was these two giant statues that were in the middle of like a lake, essentially.
Whoa.
And he showed me that. And then he's like, hey, you know what's cool is that J.R.R. Tolkien's son, Christopher, was in Egypt during World War II. And like, might have told his dad about some of that because the Argonath in Lord of the Rings, like the big statues, and there's a waterfall.
I immediately thought of those.
Yes, even before you talked about Lord of the Rings, that was what I pictured.
Yeah.
And it's like, the water is not as high. It's not like a waterfall, but you're like, it's hard to look at those and not think, well, yeah, it seems similar.
Yeah.
And that was a
that's
moment
so
where I was
cool.
like, I really need to get out more.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. A thing Garrett always talks about with Cairo is, did you have like the spaghetti dish?
Oh, kushery.
This is 21 years ago, so
Yeah.
maybe.
It's like, I don't know. It's like spaghetti and cornflakes and like this sauce and like chickpeas and lentils and.
I will say at the time I was still a bit of a baby about food, so probably I did.
This is street food. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kushery. I think that's how you say it.
I did have some street food.
Yeah.
Like I had like a lot of like fool, like
Yeah.
it's very good.
I know. I've been making fool every now and then here at home now because Rachel.
I'm a big full girly.
Yeah.
We went to Ethiopia and Rachel tried fool and it's so good.
You become a fool for fool.
Exactly a fool.
Fool?
Yeah.
Yep.
Jeremy, can you tell us a story about your best trip?
Yeah. Now I'm like, what is my best trip? Man.
Or like a few.
All
Like
right.
what are your top?
Well,
trips?
okay.
Yeah.
So when I was in Egypt, obviously Ben is like, well, we got to go see the pyramids. The crazy thing about the pyramids is they're like, you don't like drive like 50 miles to go to the pyramids.
Yeah.
They're like across. It's like if the pyramids were where Hoboken is. Like
Yeah.
that's how close they are. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so we went, but he had been in Egypt for a year at this point, so he had a bunch of people visit already. So he was like ready, and he like knew what was worth seeing and what was. So I got my picture in front of the Sphinx, and like the pyramids are also so much bigger than you have any concept of.
Yeah.
Like you see, you're like, oh, the pyramids, they're big, they're huge, they're so massive, it truly boggles the mind.
Yeah.
But he also knew there's this little booth, and at this little booth is only open for like 30 minutes every day. And we were waiting in line, and I was like, what are we waiting in line for? And he's like, you'll see. So we wait in line, we buy a ticket, and I was like, what is this ticket for? And he's like, you'll see. And the ticket was to go inside one of the pyramids.
Yeah.
And it's not like, they don't have like a escalator. You have to, it feels very like Indiana Jones. You're climbing on like, little bars hammered into the rock and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you get inside, and it's like, it's not like there's anything in there, but what's in there is like a pure black basalt room with a black sarcophagus in there, and you're just like, I don't know if we should be in here. But you're also like, a number of humans that have seen this is like less than 1% of 1% of all people who are alive.
Yeah.
And like an even smaller number of people who have ever lived, who have seen the inside of this. And that was like, oh, this is really insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like because like I don't know a lot of Egyptian history, but it is like a big lore place. Like coming up in school, like you learn
Yeah,
about
you
the
learn- yeah,
pyramids.
yeah.
Everybody watches The Prince of Egypt. Like
It's like
famously-
canopic jars is a word you have to know for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it still has that like bit of like magic and mystery. So to literally be at the center of it,
It was wild.
how fucking
Yeah.
cool.
We went to, now I can't remember. I think it's called Dendara. There's two temples, both of which I've been to, but I can't, there's one that is still fully intact. Like
Okay.
it still has a roof, which is crazy. And we went to that temple, and this was a like, oh, the world is much older than I thought. There's graffiti in the temple, and the graffiti is 160 years old, and it was carved there by Italian explorers when they found it.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's pretty crazy.
I also love shit like that where it's like, oh, people have always been shitheads.
Yeah,
I know.
nothing's,
You know,
nothing's
like
changed. Yeah,
people
yeah,
have
yeah.
always been doing graffiti. People
Yeah.
have always like, I feel the same way I do as when I see like like the bad medieval art of like cats or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like stuff like that where it's like people have always been like kind of silly.
Yeah, or just like, I'm gonna put my name on this. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
They want to leave their mark.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing with like Egypt is that there's just so much of it that you will find those like colossi in a field and like nobody really knows about it. Nobody goes. It's not like a.
It is wild that like Egypt truly has so much antiquity that like we went to the Egyptian Museum, which is in Cairo.
Yeah.
And almost nothing is behind glass.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, don't do that, because people are just like touching everything.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
all of that's going to be gone in like 100 years. And they're like, we
got-
could other than like the King Tut stuff, which is the only stuff that is behind glass.
Yeah.
They're like, we could throw out everything in this museum and replace it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Also to be somewhere like just like ancient, you know,
Yeah,
like
truly.
because especially I've talked about this before, but like being in the US and especially being in California where we've like destroyed any sense of ancient history and like the closest we have is like the gold rush. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being somewhere truly old is always like really, really magical, I think.
Have you ever heard that Eddie Izzard routine where they're like,
British humor.
it's like, I'm from England, where the history comes from. Because you tear your history down, man. Like, let's smash it to the ground and build a car park. He's like, I was in Los Angeles, and they were like, we've restored this building to how it looked over 50 years ago. It's like, no one was alive then.
It hurts, but it's
I know, but it
real.
is like,
Yeah.
it's very true.
Okay.
Okay. So we know early on you may not have tasted some tasty treats.
There's a little bit of a baby about it.
Yeah. But since then,
then.
what's the tastiest thing you've eaten on a trip?
Oh,
Do you
man.
consider yourself a food-based traveler now?
Now I think I am.
Okay.
Now I think I do. I do really look forward to food when I travel. And yeah, thankfully I got over that phase, and I have had a sticky toffee pudding. I have had some pannenkoeken. I've had some.
Real
Thank
big
you for-
reaches.
Yeah,
as far
I know,
as,
really going outside of my comfort zone. I'm trying to think of like what's like something really weird.
Wait, did you have sticky toffee pudding the first time you were in England? Like, was that too
I think
exotic?
I think no. I must have had it when I was there as a student.
Okay.
I think
Because it's just a cake.
It's just a
soaked
cake.
in
It's a
toffee.
spice
toffee.
cake,
It's
yeah.
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
with
really
whipped
good.
cream
That was an
or
easy
ice
one.
cream or cream.
And you know, Dutch pancakes is very.
Yeah.
Do you ever have
You got
the poffertjes, the really tiny ones? They're
Yes.
they're like silver
I don't know
dollar
if I gotta have those
pancakes. You might call them.
While I was there, my family's there, and I visited a couple of times. While I was
We've had the Swedish ones, the Swedish
Ah.
restaurant in Portland.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like I haven't.
Okay.
I go really hard on the
mean-
French fries. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we're
No, I
in the
don't blame you.
Netherlands, yeah,
I don't blame
it's
you.
all fries all day, all potato all day. Rachel's a potato lady.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know. I'm trying to like. You know, eventually you go to Paris
Yeah.
or Italy. Oh, actually, no. I have something for this. So, in 2012, my family, it took 10 years for us to do another big family trip, but we all went to Italy. But I went to the Netherlands by myself for a week before that trip and then met up with my family in Italy. And that involved flying from Amsterdam to Milan. And so I had like a night and a morning in Milan by myself. And I got into Milan pretty late. Like I got to my hotel at like 8 p.m. And I was like, oh, I should go get something to eat. And I saw across the street there was a pizza place. And I was like, I'm in Italy.
Yeah.
I'm in Italy for the first time. Let me get a pizza.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to walk out the door. And the concierge at the hotel is like, are you going across the street? And I was like, oh, yeah, I was just going to get a pizza. And he goes, do not go there. The pizza is made by machine. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound very good. And like, I'm sure they have some sort of kickback with this hotel. He goes, you go here. And he hands me this card and it's around the corner. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so I go around the corner and it's just like a little bistro, it's maybe like 10 tables or something. But I order a pizza with like prosciutto on it. And I got a gigantic beer. And I also hadn't really eaten much that day.
Mm-hmm.
But that pizza, I swear to God, was one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my life. And I I ate the entire pizza by myself, and I felt so good. That was really amazing.
It's just the pizza there is just different. It doesn't kill you like it does here.
Yeah.
I still will eat an entire pizza by myself.
It's a thing that comes up often, though, which is the idea that like food in Italy doesn't make you feel sick afterwards, which is kind of depressing when you realize how much of our food makes you feel sick.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, if I eat a whole pizza here, I do have a terrible day.
Yeah.
But not in Italy. And it's the same thing in, eventually you go to Paris and you try the food and you're like, everything is good.
Yeah.
Everything is good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can eat as much bread as you want.
Yeah.
And again, it does not make you sick somehow. And you're like, what are we doing here that is ruining all the food?
Yeah. Well, and it's also cool being somewhere where everyone is a foodie. That's just like foodie is the culture. Where like here, it's kind of more of a choose your own adventure.
Yeah,
you can be a scared Midwest mayonnaise boy, or you can be like I want to try everything.
Yeah, you're like, you can just eat glop. You can just eat glop your whole life if you want.
Yeah. And nothing against glop. Rachel loves glop.
Hey,
I love slop.
Slop. Sorry.
It's a little different than glop.
A little different.
Okay, my bad. I apologize. It's not my culture. So.
Don't get them twisted.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, I've had so many things in Paris that I'm like, well, that was incredible. Like, when you try a real Parisian crepe Suzette, you're just like, okay.
Is that the one with a little bit of lemon in it?
No, crepe Suzette is like Grand Marnier, like the orange liqueur, and like it's so good. It's a dessert crepe. It's very good.
Crepes in general in France just are. Yeah, I don't even eat them in America, in the States anymore. I just can't.
Wow.
I couldn't possibly.
But it really is.
But truly, like, they're on another level.
Yeah.
Yeah, crepes are always. The idea of a crepe is always better than the crepe I receive. Yeah. But I think
not in Paris as well. The crepe
also,
you receive is
not in Japan. I had a really great crepe there that was like for me, like a perfect crepe, which was like a homemade cream, like a fluffy cream, bananas and chocolate. And I think a custard maybe.
Yeah. And it was on a tourist street.
Yeah, it was like I thought it would be like a
Harajuku.
crappy tourist crepe but I was like, I see it and I just have to order it regardless of the consequences. And it was so good.
There's such an amazing video of, Paul Hollywood from Great British Baking Show.
Yes.
Yeah.
He goes to Japan and he like goes to a bakery or something and eats it and he's like, oh my God, this is incredible. And you're like, and like, I guess I'm a little surprised that somehow I know more about like the Japanese culinary tradition than Paul Hollywood does.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, they're amazing at all forms of cooking.
Yeah.
But he seemed so surprised to get like a croissant there that was like on par with what you would get in Paris. He's like stunned.
Yeah.
And you're like, Paul, just look at the food.
Yeah.
Without even putting it in your mouth. Look at it. Does it look right? It does. They're really good at it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, was it? Oh, yeah. Well, it's so funny that, like, I think as an American, my default is just to assume that Brits are more worldly,
Yeah,
more
yeah.
sophisticated, just better than us in every way.
That's just
But
London.
they're kind of like more naive. Like a lot of the time they like the thing that we have in the States is that like you're exposed to so many different cultures
Yes.
that we take it for granted how much we know about each of them. Where it is funny where I mean there's even the Great British Baking Show thing circulating where they tried to cut an avocado.
Oh, God,
And they like
yeah.
cut it in half.
And you're like,
Like through the pit.
through the pit. And you're
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
Like they couldn't even, and similarly, they couldn't even make a s'more. Like their
Yeah. Oh, the
brain
s'more is like,
melted.
yeah. And you're like, listen, obviously, all of those people are better chefs than I am.
Yeah.
But I am like, you got to do a little research if you don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
But maybe it's like the disadvantage of being like, well, we invented baking, and it's like, well, other people also simultaneously invented
Yeah.
it.
I was like,
Yeah.
Japan wasn't sitting around for 2,000 years going like, oh, I wish we could bake some. If only, like, I wish we'd think of that.
Because I also think about like Top Chef. We watch a lot of Top Chef.
Yeah.
And the American chefs, it always feels like they have an advantage because if there's like a certain culture's cuisine that's
They've
like a
probably
challenge,
tried it.
They've done it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the ones from other cultures are like, I do not know this. I've never, tasted. I've never.
The French chef
made
doesn't know how
Thai.
to make Southern food.
No.
No,
or
the-
Thai food.
the
Or Thai
French-
food,
like-
right? Yeah.
Chefs eat shit on
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can kill French food,
Yeah.
which admittedly is an excellent
Is-
cuisine to be an
it
expert
is.
in.
Yeah.
But it's not the only food
No.
on earth.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what tourist attraction lived up to the hype?
Tourist attraction lived up to- I mean, the pyramids 100%
Yeah, I thought
lived
so.
up to
Yeah.
it. It's like, my mind was fully blown out of my...
Yeah.
It was like... That was truly unreal.
Yeah.
Did you feel that like sense of awe that people talk about, like I'm small in the universe, or like some sort of like spiritual kind of moment?
Yeah, because you're like, this thing is thousands of years old, and it sort of is like, how did they do this?
Yeah.
But they did. Somebody had to because it's there,
Yeah.
and it's just baffling. It's kind of the opposite of if you've been to Stonehenge, where you want to have that feeling.
Yeah.
But A, it's like right off the highway.
Yeah.
And B, it's like they're cool, but you can only get so close. Whereas the pyramids, it's like you can climb
You
on
can
them if
sit
you
on them,
want.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, and looking at him, I was like, I could have done this.
I mean, from a distance, you do sort of feel that way because you're not allowed to get that close to them. And
Yeah.
you're a little like,
Yeah, Stonehenge is it's like it's cool because it's another one of those things where
Yeah.
it's like I've heard so much about this, I've played so much Civilization that
Right.
it's always
Yeah.
like one of the wonders that I build, and like so it's cool being there and like
Yeah.
all the mysticism around Stonehenge. But yeah, then it's just like a bunch of rocks stacked that is kind of it's kind of cool, but yeah, it's not like the pyramids. And I've been to the pyramids twice, and like even the second time, I was like, this is still incredible. I thought like I'd be over it, but yeah.
yeah, totally. The other thing that I think really lived up to the hype was my wife and I took a trip in 2018 where we went to London, and then we were going to go to Sweden to visit a friend of ours. And then just how the trip worked out, we were like, should we go to Norway? And we were like, okay. Because we were both big Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans. And we're like,
Cute.
we should see the fjords. And so we did. We like planned a trip to like go up and like take a cruise through the fjord. And then we were going to stay overnight and then kayak one of the fjords.
Oh, cool.
And that was like, the fjords are so insane. Like, when we were on this little like hour-long cruise, I could have put my phone in burst mode and thrown it into the air, and it would have landed on the deck of the boat with 50 pictures that were like, "Oh my god!" it was crazy how beautiful it was. It was so
Yeah.
still, and the water is so like there's no waves or anything. It's just like perfectly still and clear, and it's like we were also there like in like early June, so it was like the air was like crisp, and you were just like, "This is incredible."
Yeah.
That one lived up big time, and we were kind of not. We were a little ready to be underwhelmed, and we were not. We were fully overwhelmed.
Man,
Wow.
that's so cool. I always feel like in those moments too, I'm a I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
And in those moments, I almost feel like I try to make my eyes bigger so they can absorb more of the view
Yeah.
and more of the color. Cause I'm just like so like shocked at how much of it there is when I'm used to like sometimes a more grayscale environment where you're like literally like it makes my eyes snap open.
It
It's
truly
such a
is.
wild experience.
It's so vibrant where you're just like, oh my God. Like, yeah, you are sort of like, well, yeah, if you lived here, why would you ever leave here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, people here, there's no way they have anxiety. There's just absolutely no way.
Yeah. Just
Everybody's got to be super content and peaceful in Norway.
except during the winter. And then the depression comes out. And it's
Yeah.
I mean, there's no history in Norway of people being violent and going to other countries and raiding and
Yeah, the Vikings are Vikings are Iceland, right? Or
No,
did
they populated Iceland.
Okay, but are they from Scandinavia?
Yeah. I think,
Okay.
right?
I think they're from all over, if I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
But yeah.
But still it's so yeah, cuz like Iceland is so beautiful and it's
Yeah.
just like
It's always every hour is golden hour.
yeah.
Like
And
the
everybody
saturation
there-
is always turned all the way up.
yeah. And everybody there just seems so at peace and happy.
But
But they probably I'm sure they aren't, but
I know I'm still on this topic, but like,
yeah.
I will also say like Florence lives up to the hype.
Yeah.
It is just like bursting with like an unbelievable amount of like statues and paintings and stuff. And you're like, how could all this be in one place?
Yeah.
But it is. Venice is one of those cities that sort of defies your imagination. You're like, we should all be underwater,
Yeah.
but it's this weird little city.
It's the closest to Atlantis you'll ever get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's future Atlantis.
Oh, and the Colosseum is like,
Yeah.
it's like the pyramids where you're like, the scale is like, not only was it like huge, but you're like, oh, this was like the only arena in the world
Yeah.
for a long time.
And-
yeah.
And stuff like that I love when it's in the middle of a city.
Yeah,
Like a modern
that's the
bustling
best part about the
city.
Colosseum.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like if in the middle of Manhattan, instead of Central Park, it was like a great like stepped pyramid or
Yeah.
something, and you're like, yeah, it's here. You know,
Yeah,
you can
2,000 years old.
you can take a look.
So crazy.
It's wild.
Yeah. Okay. So on all your travels,
Okay.
what has been your biggest fish out of water moment? Furthest away you felt from home? What stretched you the most as a person as you traveled?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Definitely. Okay, so like when I took that trip to the Netherlands before going to Italy with my family, it was kind of just me for a while,
Yeah.
and I hadn't been on a trip in a really long time. I was 29, and most of my 20s I just like didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
Or I was trying to afford New York, so like that's where all my money went. And yeah, like I was just having such a wonderful time, like bouncing around different parts of the Netherlands and then getting to Italy and like exploring a little bit by myself. Where was I going with this?
Fish out of water?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
Was it
when
your
you're-
first time traveling alone?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, that will do it. Like when you're kind of like spending days to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a student, you're alone, but it's a little on rails.
Yeah, and plus you're in London.
Yeah, and you
speaking
can't really-
English. Everybody's speaking English,
And when
yeah.
I was in Cairo, I was basically with my friend the
Yeah.
whole time. And,
I also feel like I went to Spain by myself for a week, and I had to learn like how to eat at a restaurant alone.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a lot
Yeah.
of that of just like, because I stayed for a little bit with a friend of mine who lived in Utrecht, which is like half an hour south of Amsterdam, which is also a very lovely city.
Yeah.
But he's like, I have to work.
Yeah.
So I can't show you
Yeah.
around. And I'm like, that's okay. And he gave me a list of things to do. And I kind of just threw out the list and just like did whatever I wanted. And I had like an amazing time. And it helps that everyone in the Netherlands speaks English better
Yeah.
than they do in America.
Yeah.
But there were times where I was like, I think I know where I'm going. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not. And you just find yourself sort of like, have I been walking in a circle for the past 3 hours? And it's like, yeah, you were.
But it's like, I don't know, doing that on your own by yourself.
It's very pleasurable.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Instead of, like it's definitely great to see the sights and do the list that a friend gives you, like here are the things to do.
Yeah.
But it's also great to just do your own thing and kind of like observe life.
Yeah, it's like
everywhere.
what is just regular day-to-day life like here? And it is like it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not so different that you're like,
Yeah.
but it's fun to be like, oh wow, what would it be like to live here?
Yeah.
And I also feel like, speaking to your like walking around in circles for 3 hours, like the sense of like, but I figured it out. Like
Yes.
where you're like, to
Yeah.
me, it almost like traveling alone makes me feel like a really powerful adult in
Yeah,
a way that
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
always feel in my rhythms and in my like daily life. And so I
Totally.
think that's where it's empowering too, where you're like, well, it took me 3 hours, but I'm at the cafe.
But I've arrived. You're closed? Very well. But yeah, it is like it does give you a sense of it being like, like I'm a traveler, like I'm
yeah,
out.
I'm doing the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, like I'm gonna find something new. I'm gonna find something I didn't expect to find, and that's such a like. I love that feeling.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to travel alone or with people? Like,
I do prefer to travel alone. I have not been able to do that in other than cities I have already been to in a long time.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard now.
because it's expensive, and also it's like you have a relationship. And
Yeah.
it's like it's tricky.
it's hard to be like, you know what sounds awesome? Me going on a really cool trip without you.
Yeah.
right. Because my wife also loves to travel, so it's like, well, it's a little, a little hard
Yeah.
to justify.
Do you guys ever like go somewhere and you're like, we'll meet up at the end of the day?
No, but we should. Like that is something on our
No.
last trip together. Like next time, that's what we're gonna do because ultimately we want to see different stuff. And it's like, I think one time when we were in London years ago, I dragged her to a museum to go see. Oh my God! It was an art exhibit by. Oh my God! What is it? It was an art exhibit by the artist who does Asterix and Obelix.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
I was-
the cartoonist.
The cartoonist.
Yeah.
And I was very excited about it because I had an aunt and uncle in Spain when I was a kid, and they sent us those. And like, so I was like, this is going to be great. And then my wife was like, what are we doing here? And I was like, that's fair. This was not, I should have done this solo.
Yeah.
And you should have slept in and gone to a cafe or something. We all would have won. But yeah, 2020 hindsight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard. That feels like a relationship next level where you're like, wow,
Yeah.
and we can even be traveling and not do the same thing. Like we
I know,
haven't
we-
even had a day like
We
did we do this once?
in Ethiopia, but it was because you got sick.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
fully count. I
No,
don't think.
I'll take it.
No, I chose to throw up out of my mouth and ass for my private activity.
Yep.
And
That's what
Garrett
you wanted to do.
That's what I want.
Yep.
That's kind of what I chose to do. And Garrett went out and explored the city and had a great time.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
But you encouraged me to get out. You
Yeah,
pushed
yeah.
me out the door.
I mean, did I want you watching what was going on? No.
It's fair. It's fair. We alternated being sick there,
Oh,
so
okay.
it
All right.
worked out well.
So you got your alone time too.
Well, I still pushed
He
myself.
poisoned
Wow.
me.
I didn't throw up in the privacy of the hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Garrett threw up at
At
what
the
was
palace.
it?
Well,
At
you're
the
on the
palace,
palace.
yeah.
A man about town.
Yeah, I'm a man about town. I'm a cosmopolitan vomiter.
God. Okay, so if you could step into any moment from your travels anytime you wished, which quintessential perfect moment would you pick?
It might be that kayaking on the Sonia
Yeah.
Fjord
Yeah.
in Norway. That was like incredible, and it was also extremely relaxing, which would be a nice thing to be able to step
Yeah.
into. That would be good.
Yeah.
I will say I have just last year I went back to Florence for the first time since 2012, and I was like, oh yeah, this is one of the greatest cities to walk around in the world, because like around every corner is some building where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you there for a wedding? I feel like everybody's getting married in Tuscany.
A friend of my wife's got married in Volterra.
Okay.
And so on the way back, we did a little time in Florence, and we stayed at this Airbnb that was like, just make this my life. Just like, I just want to live here. And so there's part of me that just wants to like be able to step back into Florence at any time. Also got a sandwich there that was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What was on it?
Um,
You're like literally licking your lips.
I
know. There's a chain in Florence called Alla Antica Vinaio, which is like a well-known place, and they're like making the focaccia in front of you and like pulling it out of the oven and like cutting it in half, and it's like, what do you want? And they have all these different sandwiches, and so it's then they're like slicing the meat and putting it on the sandwich, and there's like a lot of them have like a pistachio spread. And you're eating it and cheese and stuff, and the bread is warm, and it's like
so fresh.
We were there with another couple, and we went to this place because it had these incredible reviews, and we all got these enormous sandwiches, and we all ate them, the entire thing, because it was like, oh my God.
Let me guess. It was like €5.
Yeah, it was maybe
because like here
€6.
in LA that would be like $20. Yeah.
But yeah, over there it was like, this is like. Truly there's no one in this town who cannot afford this sandwich, and it's amazing.
It's also funny how I feel like, to me, the price of things impacts my enjoyment of the travel.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, where when I'm somewhere where everything is cheaper, I'm like, well, this was better than me just staying home. Like I'm saving money, even though of course I'm still spending a lot. But there's something about the idea when like good food is ultra affordable or public transportation isn't that expensive.
It feels
or like,
magical. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I'm getting a sensational deal the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Those are good. Those are good places. Those are good happy places.
If I can do a third,
yes, you can.
Maybe Prague Castle.
Oh, that's sick.
I've heard
it's just such a
I've never
cool
been to Prague.
castle.
Yeah,
Prague is amazing. Prague to me feels like one of the most relaxed cities in the world. Like I don't know if Czech people in general have a reputation as being very low key, but it just seemed like nobody was ever in a hurry. Nobody was freaking out about anything. It was great.
Yeah. Have you been to Edinburgh?
I have not been to Edinburgh.
Okay, I was curious how the castles compared.
Prague Castle is crazy. It's enormous.
Okay.
But I also know, I guess if you're a castle person, it's like Germany is like Castle Central.
Oh, I didn't know that about Germany, that it's the big castle town.
Well, Germany has like the castle that like the Disney castle is based on.
Oh,
like that's based on a real castle, and it's in Germany, and there's also like 50 more of them.
Damn.
So,
France is also a good castle place.
a friend of mine just was in Denmark, and he said their castles are really good.
Oh.
I mean, Europe's full of good castles.
I know.
Yeah, we don't have even a single good castle.
I know.
Here.
Oh, no. It's not true.
Hearst Castle.
I have been to Hearst Castle. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I went there for my 16th birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so fun.
I don't know why. I just thought it was like so fucking cool.
We went there as part of our anniversary trip last year.
Cute.
It's fun.
There's something fun about it just being such a hodgepodge of stuff.
Oh my God. It's such a random agglomeration of like, I shipped this over from Europe and now it's part of the house. And you're like, but why?
Yeah, he's like, because I liked it.
I liked it. Cool. It was expensive. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
You do you, my man.
Okay. In your travels and now, being here in LA, is there a local custom you've observed while traveling that you've implemented or wish you'd implemented into your daily life?
I mean, you can't in LA, but when you're in the Netherlands, everybody bikes everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the cities are built for that.
Yeah.
And so like it doesn't matter where you are in Amsterdam and Utrecht, in some random dinky little town.
Yeah.
There are bikes. You can rent a bike anywhere. You can leave it anywhere.
Yep.
You can, and like the bikes have more respect on the road than cars do.
Yeah.
It's very like, God, I wish every city was like this.
Yeah.
It would be so nice.
It's
I
kind
know.
of heartbreaking when you're there and you get a taste of it and you're like, this is what it could be.
This is probably what it should be.
Yeah.
Well, because I feel like the end of my time in New York, it got really good for biking, and
It's-
I biked everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I moved back home to Portland, and we were biking all over Portland. And then when we moved down here, I was like, oh, I'm going to bike.
No,
and I biked maybe the first year here and there.
But like, I'm just so afraid of
Yeah.
getting killed.
I know. I'm like, this more than any city I've ever been to feels like it is a dead. And like, obviously, people get killed in New York all the time cycling, but I feel way more unsafe biking in LA than I do anywhere else.
Same. There's like patches of good biking. Like
Sure.
we live near the LA River bike path.
Not bad. Yeah.
Not bad if you are going where the bike path goes.
Don't stray off the bike path.
No.
Have you ever been to Copenhagen?
No. I haven't.
It's the best cycling.
I'd love to.
It's like, I mean, it's hard to decide which is better, Netherlands or Copenhagen, but like in Copenhagen, I could bike to the airport.
Ooh, wow. All
Yeah.
right. I don't think you can do that in the Netherlands.
It's like, it's so cool.
Oh, that's
It's so great. Yeah, and the Copenhagen, like a lot of places study Copenhagen's, how
Their infrastructure.
and their policies, because it's more than just like good bike infrastructure. It's also it's more than just making the bike the easiest way to get from point A to point B, but it's also making a car a little less convenient. for getting point A to point B.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another thing I really liked, which I discovered in the Netherlands, but I have done on many trips since then, is I flew over there. I got to like the main Amsterdam train station, and I had to kill a whole day before I could go see my friend because he was working. And their train station just has lockers, and I know there's like safety risks with the lockers, but it's so nice to just be able to stash your suitcase and then like walk around the city and then, like, okay, time to go.
Yep.
But now there are a lot of services in, like when I was in Florence last year, there's like an app and you can find it and you can stash your shit, and it's like that is so helpful when you're traveling around to be able to leave your stuff somewhere.
Because we started doing that a lot in Japan, because we would like, going from like Nagano to Kyoto and stop at a few places along the way, stash our bag in a locker, and then when we were in New York recently,
Could not find anywhere to put our bags.
Nowhere.
I found like a probably the same app or a similar app, and like found like a bodega.
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
It
I'll
was
leave it here.
such a hassle.
But it was
though.
like $10, $20. And
I know,
like,
and you're like, it's not even that cheap.
No.
And you're like, but this was maybe like €1.
Yeah.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
that's just, I know there's risks.
I know.
Security, but like America has become so like, well, we can't, both in terms of like fear of terrorism and also legal concerns.
Yeah.
It's so annoying, and I hate it.
I know. Well, I was going to say, this is on a totally different tangent. A Netherlands thing we tried to do for a while that was very fun is like basically like having a big cheese box in our fridge that you pull out for breakfast.
Yeah.
Because like whenever we visit my cousins in the Netherlands, they always bring out this tray of like, my uncle's like obsessed with
God,
cheese,
it's
like has
great.
multiple cheese wheels. Like I think he has like a cheese fridge basically.
Yeah, down in the basement.
Yeah, and so like that you can, and it's like they use the like cheese grater and it's so satisfying.
So apparently that cheese slicer thing was invented in Norway, and I know this because when we were in Norway, every souvenir shop is like, the cheese is invented in Norway. and there was one in Bergen that we flew into that I really wish I had bought because it had little moose antlers on it. And it was very cute. And I didn't get it. And I so regret it. But I did, when we got back to the States, buy one.
Yeah.
Because those things make eating cheese frictionless. It's incredible.
It's so like satisfying and pleasing. And I think something I loved about the breakfast, they would also have like thick seeded crackers or like bread. So it was really a choose your own adventure. So you're doing all these different combinations of
Love it.
cheeses and stuff. And it's so tactile and fun, and it slows me down.
Yeah.
To have to build things.
If you entertain, also one of those cheese slicer things is like you can put together a cheese plate in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the cheese is like so thin, whereas like I'm always like trying to cut cheese
these
with
big
a
slabs.
knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did try cheese box breakfast
We
for a
did,
while, but it's
yeah.
hard because even the cheese game here is different.
not as good.
You know?
It's not as good, and it's
No.
more expensive.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Like getting good cheese costs a lot here.
Yeah. You don't want a extruded block of of pepper jack from.
Yeah, like a nice fine pepper jack in
Yeah.
the morning. No.
U.S. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that are great about
There's
here.
if we're going to point to one of the biggest problems with the U.S., the food supply is one of our bigger issues.
No,
Yeah.
don't get me started.
know.
We can talk offline. I've read so
Yeah.
many books about it.
Her dad's a farmer.
Oh
Yeah.
God! Oh, so you know.
Yeah, I know. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
surprise
ready.
lightning
I'm
round.
ready. Okay, I'm prepped.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Hot or cold?
Cold.
City or country?
City.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
History or modern?
Ooh, that's tough. History.
Clubs or cafes?
Cafes.
Early bird or night owl? Sorry.
Early
Wow.
bird.
Early bird? Fancy or casual?
Casual.
Fast or slow?
Slow.
Dogs or cats or cows or monkeys?
Dogs.
Okay.
Well done.
Okay. So we're gonna take a break real quick
Okay.
while we tabulate all that we've got here.
Okay.
And come up each with your dream trip. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
All right,
Then,
get ready
are
to
you
sit
ready
on
to
your
rest?
phone for 10 minutes.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
All right. We'll
Really
be right
need to
back.
pee.
And we're back.
Okay.
We've done the research. We're very confident about
Okay.
what we've developed for you.
I feel good about it.
This is going to be really hard for you to decide.
Okay. All right. Well,
I strongly believe this because I know how both of us are very confident
okay. All right.
about our trips. All right. So, Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I have planned for you.
All right. Lay it on me.
You and your wife
Mhm.
are going to go for 10 days to Beijing.
I also chose China.
Oh.
Really?
But I guess we'll just
Good
pitch
thing I
the
went
different
first.
Okay.
Interesting. I had a feeling when you said
I
talking about
can't
the
pronounce
pronunciations.
anything. Yeah.
I will also have similar problems, so I apologize ahead of time. I will
Okay.
be doing my best.
Okay.
So 10 days in Beijing.
Okay.
And why 10 days in Beijing? Because you'll spend a good amount of time in Beijing,
Okay.
but you'll also be hitting up sections of the Great Wall of China. So you'll of course start off kind of the main touristy, best restored part of the Great Wall, Mutianyu,
Okay.
and that is these are all like 1 to 3 hours from Beijing.
Okay.
And this is, it's going to be crowded at this spot, but that's part of it. These great sites, but this is where you'll get to see the majesty of it. You'll spend a day there, kind of. Danny always likes to have his say
Sure. Yeah.
during these. So yeah, you'll get to see the majesty, what it once looked like, and just how it goes on, from one horizon to the next horizon. Then I'll send you to Gubeku,
Okay.
which is the wild spot. It's totally unrestored, and it's a 130
Still part of the wall.
still part of the wall.
Okay.
130 ancient battles happen there,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see that's where you'll get like the untouched kind of splendor of the wall, and it's not been rebuilt there.
Right.
There's nothing modern there. It's old. Then I'll send you to Juyongguan, one of the greatest forts there,
and
it's
I love a good fort.
and it's a spot Genghis Khan passed through.
Oh, cool.
We know that name from history. He,
I do.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
yeah, that was he went through the pass there to invade China, and then the final Great Wall spot I'll send you to is Shenhaiguan. And it's where the Great Wall meets the sea. So it's the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like fades into the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And I've always kind of wanted to see, this is the part of the Great Wall I've always wanted to see.
Oh, that
'Cause
sounds really cool.
yeah, when you think of the Great Wall, you think of
It
mountains.
stands
like
tall,
going
it
in-
goes over
yeah.
the-
And this is where it's on the beach. And so you can get a little beach day if you want.
Okay.
If you want to like hang out on the beach and the Great Wall.
All right. Good.
And then while you're in Beijing, because I'm putting you there, I'm not going to send you every day to the Great Wall.
Okay. So
'Cause
there's Beijing
Beijing-
stuff as well.
Yes, there is Beijing stuff. And you've got the classic Beijing stuff, like the Temple of Heaven,
Mm-hmm.
Tiananmen Square, Forbidden City, the Ming Dynasty City Wall Park. Yeah, the Summer Palace, Olympic venues.
Okay. You're speaking my language with the Olympics.
Oh.
I'm a big Olympics guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah,
Whoa.
because you were in Athens before the
I
Olympics.
guess I did mention it. Yeah. It was not an intentional layover, but yeah.
But you could have had a layover in Istanbul
That's true.
on your way to
That's true, but I
Cairo, but
chose
you chose
Athens.
Athens.
Yeah.
Something drew you, and I sense that. So those are some of the things, and I'm going to give you a day for you and your wife to go different ways to wander.
Okay, good.
But the main thing is I want to send you to the different snack streets.
Oh, snack streets.
Snack streets. Who doesn't love a snack street? A street for snacks.
Full of snacks.
So there's streets like the Wang Fujing snack street, and yeah, you'll get like kebabs and dumplings. Have you had candied fruits? Here they're
I don't know that I have.
tanghulu.
No.
I'm assuming they're like what we've had in Japan, where it's just like a strawberry or a kiwi dipped in like a sugar glaze, and they kind of
Sounds good.
hardens, and it's
Yeah.
so you get like it's a little extra sweetness with it.
Sounds good.
Do you like spicy food?
I do, yeah.
Okay, there's Ghost Street, Guiji.
Mm.
It's a snack street with lots of food from the Sichuan province.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of spicy, a lot of Sichuan peppercorns.
Okay,
so like
yeah.
also that numbing. The Muslim snack street, Niuji.
Oh, okay.
So you'll get to see the old mosque in Beijing, the Muslim population, and they have a lot of a lot of lamb, beef, and various pastries there.
Sounds good to me.
And yeah, that's just 3 of the many
snack streets that exist.
I could go on and on about the snack streets. You'll get some Peking duck, you'll get some seafood, because you'll have 10 nights. You're gonna
I
get
could be
back
on
from the
those
Great Wall.
snack streets every night if I want.
Exactly. If you want, you can also go to like other
Snacks only.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, snacks only. Then great. I'm sending you only. I'm only allowing you snack streets.
Okay. There's a guard in charge of this.
Yeah.
Yikes.
If you try to step into a proper restaurant,
We bat it away.
yeah, exactly, and
Okay.
sent
All
straight
right.
to the nearest snack street. So that Great Wall and snack streets of Beijing is
Sounds like a good trip.
my pitch to you, Rachel.
Rachel.
Or Secret Agent Panakukin.
All right, here we go. All right, so I'm not sending you to Beijing.
Okay.
But I am sending you to Shanghai.
Okay. Number 2.
Yeah.
And on this one, I'm not having you go with your wife.
Okay.
I'm
Oh.
having you go and meet up with a very close friend of yours who's been living there for like 10 years.
We
Who
can make somebody move there. 10
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
we have
Wow.
the power to
We
do
have
that.
this power.
So
yeah.
they've been living there 10 years. They know the language pretty well. And in and out, they're going to be like showing you around and like helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll also put you in a space where you feel confident to travel around on your own.
Okay.
So they're going to kind of like,
All
for
right.
the first week, they're really going to kind of like show you the ropes.
Hold my
and
hand a little
then
bit and
hold your
then
hand. And then you're really going to fly.
okay.
In Shanghai, I'm going to have you stay at the Wanda Rain on the Bund.
Mm.
It's this very glamorous
Oh,
hotel with
yeah.
a beautiful view of the skyline,
Looks great.
cool pools, very chic. Because nothing's more important when you're traveling in a new country where you feel uncomfortable than a good night's sleep.
That's true.
So you're always going to have
That's very
access
true.
to a really good night's sleep. So first off, I'm going to have you go to the Shanghai Propaganda Poster Art Museum.
This is 100% a place I would go to.
Yeah.
I intuited that, and when I saw that that's a thing that they have, I was like, that sounds like a place Jeremy would really enjoy.
I would go there and I think I would enjoy it.
Yeah, you would spend a good time there. Then I'm going to have you go to Jia Tingbao to get some soup dumplings.
I love soup dumplings.
You can also go to the Tianzi Fang neighborhood, which is a labyrinth of alleyways and old Shinkoman-style architecture. Really?
Both of you are trying to send me into alleyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Get
I
them off
will
the main
share
streets.
that there is an off chance you might be able to see some wild monkeys, as in 2021 there was a wild monkey outbreak in Shanghai's Jinshan district. So for the sake of this trip, I'm going to plant some monkeys so
Okay.
you get that in.
Monkey outbreaks never sound great.
No, no.
No, there were just some wild monkeys
okay,
hanging
all
out
right,
in
all
the
right.
city, which I think is kind of cool.
Just having fun.
Yeah,
Getting-
the wild monkeys in Asia tend to be a problem. They're
very mischievous.
Yeah, they're mischievous.
yeah.
But I'm gonna say these ones are just mischievous in a like. If you took
In
a
a good-
video of one, you'd be showing everybody here, like, look at what this funny
Right.
monkey
This
did.
crazy monkey took my hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like, look at this crazy monkey that gave me rabies shortly.
Yeah.
after I took
Or
this video.
I've had a monkey steal my glasses.
Oh no!
Yeah. So you know this is be careful.
All right, I will hold
careful.
on to my glasses
Yeah.
when I see the monkeys.
Thank you so much. So I'm also going to send you to a Time for Tea, which is a complete tea house experience where the proprietor will greet you with her signature charm and lead you to the tea tasting area where they walk you through the various high quality teas of the
Quite
area.
nice.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you get a little bit of the like history and to like interact with it with your mouth.
That's my
Yes.
favorite way to interact with history.
With your mouth?
With my
Yeah.
mouth. I don't
You just
understand
eating
it
old
until,
documents
yeah,
all the time.
I know.
A
Yeah,
lot of parchment
yeah.
going down.
It just doesn't hit the same.
That's why the Egypt museum is so much better for me. I didn't get the King Tut area, but everything else
I'm-
So many figurines.
that I could just put in my mouth.
yeah.
It sounds like in Egypt you could put them in your mouth.
Yes,
Hon-
exactly.
Honestly,
Yeah.
you could, and that is one of
Yeah.
the things that made me most like in Egypt most uncomfortable. I was like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be able to touch
No.
these at all.
Well, here you're just putting tea in your mouth.
Okay, that's fine. That's where tea belongs. That's okay.
You'll also take a day trip, and you know what? I'm gonna have you stay a couple days because this place looks huge. To the Zhangjiajie National Forest Park.
I've always wanted to
so-
go there.
Yeah, I know. It's a picture where I didn't realize it was this place,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah,
they've
that
got
place
these
looks
like giant
incredible.
cliffs.
Yeah, that
It looks like out of
so-
Avatar.
Yeah,
Incredible views. Like you're gonna
Both
feel
avatars.
like you're somewhere just
that
completely
sounds
different.
amazing. Yep.
So you'll go through there. I'm also going to send you on a flight to a different area called Guangzhou. And there it's kind of like a little more laid back of a town, but they have charming tea houses, lively nightlife, and fiery Sichuan food. So you can have a great time eating and kind of having a more relaxed feel.
Sounds
And
good.
surprise, this is where the pandas are.
Oh my God.
Pandas.
There's the giant panda breeding research base is located here. So you will be able to interact with the pandas in addition to checking out temples, pavilions, and museums devoted to the culture of the ancient Shu kingdom.
Wow.
So you'll get a heavy dose of architecture and pandas in Chengdu. So this overall is the trip that I am pitching to you.
Garrett, I'm
Man.
so sorry.
I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this.
I don't know. It's the poster museum,
Yeah.
the tea house, and also seeing. Ironically, the friend who I went to visit in Cairo also lived in Beijing for a number of years.
Whoa.
He now lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where he's originally from. But I always wanted to go visit him in China, and I never did. I didn't have the money at the time, and so if it's Ben in China who's been planted there for my sake, then I think I got to take that trip.
Man. Yep. No, that's fair.
Sorry, Garrett.
No, that's
It
fair.
also
Jeremy
sounded like a
chose-
wonderful trip. I would love to, but I think I have to choose Rachel's trip.
That's.
Jeremy
you know.
chose Ben over his wife.
I really.
I see my wife every day. It's
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I don't think I'm getting this promotion.
Oh,
I
I think
mean,
is what it's
we're
coming
only
down to.
halfway through the season.
Yeah,
you could rally. You
I
could.
could.
You could go on a tear
That's true.
after this episode, not starting with this.
I know.
Yeah. You look so beaten down.
I feel beaten down. I don't
so
know
sorry.
what I don't know what I'm doing. I think I know what I'm doing. I tried this not to make this all about me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But,
you need to process this.
I need to
though.
process this because
Okay.
I tried going out of my usual,
Mm-hmm.
which is my problem that recently has been like just pitching trips that I've been on, and I've
What-
never been to China.
What pitch would your if you had somewhere you had gone? What would you have pitched?
I was thinking, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I would have. I initially, I like immediately avoided that,
Oh, okay.
but I did. There was a thought of Turkey.
that would be
and-
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna do a repitch, but like
No.
food and like the site, the ancient sites there.
I
and-
was also thinking Croatia at a certain
Oh.
point because I was like, that's a big
That's
castle town as
Yeah,
featured in Game of
that's
Thrones.
true.
Although I
Also-
could also picturing you enjoying like Edinburgh and Isle of Skye and being perfectly happy
That's
with
true.
that too.
Also, Croatia very big in Eurovision. The last few
Oh.
years.
Oh, we didn't even think about the
I
Eurovision.
know.
They came in second place this year.
Really?
Croatia,
Wow.
yeah.
Who came in first again?
First place this year was Switzerland,
Okay.
which was a good song, not my favorite song.
Yeah.
But Croatia, second place is the highest place Croatia has ever gotten in Eurovision. So
Really?
not sort of a success on
Good
their
for
end as
them,
well.
Yeah.
Dang, so if we had set up a trip where you go to Croatia and see that performance,
I mean, that would
Hard
have
to
been
beat.
cool. That would have been pretty cool.
I know. Dang.
that's
I know, I
funny
should
that
have
we
done
both thought China though.
I know.
It
I
is a
wonder
little weird.
why.
My thought process, I thought it pretty early on, but hearing how much you enjoy like archaeology
Yeah, same.
and history and all that, and hearing that you're pretty well traveled around Europe already. was
I
like,
have done a lot of European travel, and I have done almost no Asian travel, much to my chagrin.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of like, okay, like China is a really rich, like archaeological kind of element
Yeah,
to
totally.
it. But to me personally is like a place that I think is fascinating and so big and interesting, and I would love to go, but I don't know a lot about it, which is why I was like, okay, plant somebody who knows a lot about it. Yeah, but I was mostly going for the archaeological aspect,
Yeah,
and
same.
because I had heard that their national parks were so spectacular.
Yeah.
Truly, if I did go to China, I would email my friend Ben and be like, "Where
Yeah.
should I go?" Because he would know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God, I need it. Well, I have a similar friend, Anil, who he's now back home in Portland, but I visited him when he lived in Beirut. Like he lived all over. He's been all over. But yeah, back
Yeah.
home in Portland now. But I usually check in with him, like, where should I go? Yeah.
Good to have that friend.
It's good to have that friend.
A well-traveled friend.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Rachel, why don't you do that outro? I'm just.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for destroying Garrett's spirit.
My great pleasure.
So we don't actually have the money to send you on this trip right now,
Okay,
but
that's
when one
okay,
of us
that's all
gets the promotion and the
Fingers
funding,
crossed,
Yeah, and the
fingers
funding
we'll
and-
send you on that trip.
crossed. Okay. That
Yeah,
sounds
I
good.
mean, right now a lot of government agencies are losing funding, so hopefully,
I understand.
that
Libraries
reverses.
are
exactly,
shutting- yeah, I get
exactly.
it.
But
Yeah, yeah.
soon,
Okay,
we'll
all
send
right.
you on this trip.
I'd rather
right.
a library be open than I get to go on this trip.
Wow, honestly, incredible.
Yeah, yeah,
if only
hero.
everybody felt that way.
yeah, right.
Um,
Oh,
All
boy.
right, thank you so much. And that was Jeremy Bent.
Traveling on.
Traveling on with Agents of Travel. We're the Agents of Travel. We're traveling on. We're gonna leave this one behind.
Not so fast.
We're moving on. Time to move on. Next episode. We
Yeah.
don't need to discuss.
I hate to say it, but I've
Yeah.
won every episode
this
this
year,
so
this
far.
season. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. You got him. Hi, Danny. You got him with the propaganda museum. You just, I don't know. I went like old stuff with the wall. I kind of got like, I in my research, I was like, oh, what are some other parts? I was like, oh, I kind of went from like historical old stuff castle kind of thing. Like, what are some other castle type things that I would want to see. I was like, oh, Great Wall. What are the other parts of the Great Wall? I know the main part, and I've seen images of it going into the ocean. What else is there? Danny's getting comfortable. He's saddling up.
And I read, between the lines of what he was saying. And I think, if I remember right, he was wearing like a band T-shirt on
probably
the day he was here. And I think I made a couple flash judgments about what he would like. And I was right.
Yeah, you were right.
The propaganda museum.
You can read people pretty well.
Yeah.
I only listen to what people tell me.
I listen with my eyes, my ears.
Yeah. Well, apparently one listening is superior to the other. All right. So that's it for episode 3 of season 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody.
Keep traveling on.
Keep traveling on. We'll see you next week. I'll probably forget that catchphrase by then.